Okay, it looks like we're nearly there. It says live video starting. We are now live. Kia ora, Heidi. Kia ora, Rachel.
Kia ora.
It's lovely to see you both. And if anybody is wanting to join us, I have put the event back up on the on our Facebook page because there's been a bit of a mix-up with Zoom again. Zoom is sending me nuts at the moment. So if you just click on that event that has just been put up on the page, you'll be able to come in, and we have Wendy with us, which is fantastic. You just join us when you want to. Kia ora, Wendy. How are you?
Good, Kathy. How are you?
Very well, thank you. And Wendy is hailing all the way from Cape Town. So
Hey.
Welcome.
so that's where
Thank you.
Heidi and myself went to university. And I might as well introduce Heidi now. Heidi and I have been friends for, oh, crikey, nearly 40 years now. Do you realize that, Heidi? It doesn't seem that long, does it? Well, at least 35 anyway. Heidi and I went to university in Cape Town in the late 80s. And we were actually roommates for a year, poor Heidi.
It was a blessing.
And we have been fast friends ever since, and our paths have met and parted and met and parted. And Heidi, besides having a psychology and sociology degree that you did at Cape Town, wasn't it, Heidi?
A social science. Yes, it was. Yeah. It was psychology. Yeah.
Yeah. She then went across to the UK and became an osteopath and a naturopath. And beyond that, Heidi has done so many courses and modalities and thrived at every single one of them, including body talk and journey work, and axle bars. Is that right? Access bar. That's it. And now you're working a lot with human design, which you've expressed to me, Heidi, is one of your most favorite things to have done, most favorite modalities. So I'd like to welcome you. And I'd like to welcome Rachel and Wendy who've come on live, and thank you, Heidi, for doing this. I know that your healing abilities are absolutely astounding, and I'm both privileged to have you as my friend and as to have you as my colleague now too. I'm going to hand it over to you, Heidi.
Well, thank you for that very illustrious introduction. I think all the things that I've been playing with are really the common denominator is the body. So I'm gonna, if I may, head straight into, I've got some slides, but I would like to just open it up to you guys, that if there are questions, maybe, I don't know if the chat is enabled or not, but just to, yeah, the chat is there. Maybe just put the questions in there as we go, if there are things that pop up. If there's something really pressing, I'm not sure how well I'm going to navigate through this, like through screen share. So I'll probably just present the slides. And then I did send the little link. I'm hoping you might have, and I know Rachel has shown me her chart already, so that's very cool. That Wendy, you might also have had the link and had an opportunity to maybe get your chart ready, so that if there is time that we can have a little discussion of any of the things that might be sort of pertinent to you personally. So without a further ado, I'm going to go to share my screen. Wow, look at that. Now let's see if I can just...
Heidi, can I just quickly interject? I have to leave at 9 o'clock our time, which I think is going to be 7 o'clock your time, so half an hour in. So please excuse me for being rude and leaving halfway through. I'll catch the recording.
You're welcome. However works, and catch up later. And thank you for joining us at the time that you are. So
thank you.
Just introducing the slides. Are you creating your life? To begin the journey, I just, this is stuff that I've done. So the osteopathic medicine, naturopathy, osteopathy, and the psychology piece, and then working with body facilitation, and now being a student of human design. Human design is that large that I probably will be a student of human design for the rest of my life. And this slide is just looking at, I wonder if I could, but it's basically looking at what our intention is for tonight. For those who are listening today or to the recording, I'm looking to share some information, and the bold pieces are really the big things about being aware the amazing opportunity we have having a body, and that the body is like a vehicle that you travel through life in. But it's not just a vehicle, it has actually got an inborn GPS. And that GPS is something that we're going to be discussing tonight. Like, how do we know what our body is telling us? What is correct for us to choose? Why would we want to know what our body is telling us? The body is kind of like your DNA is the imprint. It's kind of the cards you've been dealt for life to play with. It gives you your range of opportunities. It's inbuilt. And depending on the environments we find ourselves in, we then activate certain parts of our code. If we start to choose to listen and consciously make choices through using our body, we get more in alignment with our highest potential. So, and it helps to lead you to that unique life path. The how part of it is being able to just firstly becoming aware, and then acting on what you're aware of. So it's kind of like not second guessing or doubting. It's about actually acknowledging what your body is letting you know, and then following through with taking action in alignment with that. Sometimes the brain comes in and says, oh, but I think, this, that, and the next thing, and maybe I should choose that rather. But if we are willing to experiment with human design, we will make choices, and sometimes after the fact we know, oh, but I did actually know. Maybe I could have chosen something different here. And the what of it, why would we want to do this choosing consciously, is simply because it brings the joy of fulfillment and being the fullest and fulfilling your highest dreams, because our highest dreams are usually part of activating our life purpose. So that is the intention for tonight. And the last slide is again going over those intentions and seeing, have we kind of managed to succeed with fulfilling those intentions. These are just some of the sites, but I did the humandesignamerica.com. That's the one that I probably think is it gives you the free chart up front. The others used to as well, but not so much anymore. But so we can go on to the next slide. So this is why we're wanting to choose consciously. When we're looking at the unconscious piece, so this is our conscious piece at the top here, the 10%, and the sort of 90% under here is unconscious. But in that unconscious piece, we have the super, I should say super conscious is part of that as well. But all of this here, the big piece underneath the conscious part is where we have all our trauma, our failures, our apprehensions, our past experiences, all the belief systems that we've been kind of indoctrinated with, or have just kind of been percolated through into our very essence through our lifetimes by observing others as well. So when we can kind of clear out some of this middle piece of the fears and the anxieties, because our brain is wired to keep us alive. So those things that held the highest charge are remembered and put to the kind of the surface of the brain and get triggered quite quickly. So they're kind of on the ready to be activated anytime through your life. But as soon as we become aware of what those triggers are, the unconscious becomes more conscious. And then underneath that, we have the superconscious, which is your potentials, your highest dreams. So we're really and the body is kind of like it embodies our unconscious. The body is like, when I did psychology, I then chose to do physical body work, because people can use the brain to dance left, right, and center and in a merry ring. You might not get to the bottom of something because we have all these explanations and defenses and all sorts of interesting things that go on, and you can spend years looking at those things. The body never lies. It just says it the way it is. So we're just going to ask questions of like, these questions are just to sort of activate what is really important to you. What would the life that you'd love to live look like? And what if there were signposts? So there are signposts along the way. What if your body is the messenger of your soul? And we could start listening to that. And so going into the human design, this is kind of like looks like a pyramid, but actually it's the same thing. It's our little, what do you call it? You know, the ones that are in the water. But anyway, basically, forget about that piece. This is the human design chart. It is based on the I Ching, astrology, which is where the time and date of birth is really important. And also the channels that you see linking the different centers comes from the Jewish tree of life. And so these are the chakras and 2 more centers. And they've all got names, which I've put there, but we don't really have to kind of go into those specifically. It's just to give you an idea of what a blank chart looks like. And then here we're looking at the chart, and there's like 4 different categories that all people fall into. And there's different names probably on your charts and on here. This is the business wording for it. The initiators are the ones that have an idea and they act on it. Then you've got the projectors, which are the project managers that can oversee what's going on, see what could be done better, arrange teams in cohesive ways. Builders, which are 70% of the population, which probably, I know there's at least 3 of us here already, are the generators. So when someone is a builder and a generator, this is the center that is lit up. For this one here, the initiator, if it's also called a manifester, that sort of initiates the thing, the throat is lit up. And then these evaluators are 1% of the population, which is very rare, but they're exceptional because none of these centers are lit up. They have little activations along, like a gate activated. So we call these little numbers here gates to the center. And these are the pathways that lead from one center to the next center to the next gate. So the evaluators have just channels that are activated. And actually, one of the questions that Rachel already sort of showed, well, let me know she had, was about open centers. The open centers like especially like for an evaluator, are centers whereby you become conditioned by your environment, or you pick up, you become like an amplifier for what goes on around you. So you're broadcasting. The centers that are colored in and solid are the things you can rely on through thick and thin. They never change. The things that are open is a broadcasting center. So you could pick up what someone else is thinking if you have an open inspiration center, this one up here, the 7th chakra. So you pick up what's going on around you. Quite often we identify with it and think, gosh, why am I thinking like that? But it may not even be coming from you. It may be being transmitted to you. When we get past the conditioning, though, this is the inspiration center or any of the other centers. When we get past the conditioning, that is where you have your superconscious access. So not only, it's got like 2 channels. It's got the conditioning, which is like things we have to work through. And then it's also got being at one with universal energy and getting universal insights. So it's a broadcasting center one way or the other. This next slide, so don't get overwhelmed. It is quite busy, but it's just, again, the same, the builder, the advisor, the initiator, and the evaluator with the percentages that we've just seen. And these are the things that are really quite important, the strategies. But if you can see, out of all those 3, all of us have to wait. We all think that, so the initiator or the manifestor is the one that thinks, I can initiate, I just go out and I go and do it, and that's the way it is. But actually, that's not how most of our bodies are designed. Our bodies have like an energetic space. The initiator has kind of like a repelling space, which pushes all obstacles out of the way and makes things happen. The builders tend to have a warm, enveloping aura, which is this one here. And because of that energetic space around our bodies, we actually attract what our life purpose requires us to attract. Then we need to use our inner authority, which is our inner GPS, to make that choice, to decide whether this is correct for you or not correct for you. Like you meet someone and someone else loves them dearly. And you think, well, because they love them, I should love them. And yet you have a funny sense like, just not getting it. And then you doubt yourself, and then you try and make friends. What I'm saying here is that sometimes your awareness, like this emotional awareness, 50% of the population have emotional activations, so that the emotional center is kind of like in the hierarchy of awareness centers, is the first one. And it kind of needs to be honored, really, to be correct along your path. The only one who, like looking at the auras here, the only one that is closed and repelling and actually doesn't have to wait for things to come to them and then they respond to whether they're going to do it or not do it, is actually the initiator or the manifestor. So the rest of us are all waiting. So the strategy for most of us is the same, except for if you're a manifestor or an initiator, same thing, yeah. And here the auras, the advisor, it has kind of a probing, projecting sort of aura that is insightful. Sometimes you see someone looking at you and you feel like you've been skewered. That's probably an advisor. They see through you. And they, because of that ability, they actually see, they sample your energy and they sample the energy of, let's say, the team, and they just get a sense of, they know who gets to work with whom in the best possible way. It's kind of like just an inner knowing. That is just how they're built. they sample, and they know what resonates with what. And they are really good at project managing. And the evaluator, so the initiator starts the process, the builders have the energy to do the work, the advisor oversees the workers, and then the evaluator is the one that watches the whole environment. Because they're so open, they pick up everything from everyone through the whole moon cycle, so for a whole month. And at the end of a month, they will have insights that are hugely insightful for the project, the company, people in their region. If they're in politics, it would be, they'd simply sit back and observe for a month and then give you the most incisive feedback at the end of that. But their strategy is they have to wait for a really long time, the full lunar cycle. In this next slide, it's similar to this one that we've just looked at, but here we're going to look at what centers we're looking at. So if you've got, so on your charts, if you've got your charts with you, I'll quickly go to here. Let's say this is a chart. So here we've got the seventh chakra, or the insight, inspiration, and this one's insight. This one's the throat chakra, or the manifesting chakra. This here is the liver, so that's different to what you'd normally see in a chakra chart. And then here we've got the solar plexus, the sacrum, and the root. Solar plexus is here, so that's your emotional one. It's just a diagram of the chakras. They're in different places to how you'd normally see them, but it's to highlight the channels as well. So and this little one here is the heart. And then we've got, so the solar plexus we've talked about, and this one's the spleen. So the two centers that we don't have on a chakra chart would be the spleen and the liver. So instead of 7 chakras, we've got 9 centers. So these are the 2 additional ones. But just going back to where we're here, no, we were down to here. So we've got the solar plexus. So anyone, when you look at your chart, solar plexus is the one just underneath the rib cage in the middle of the body. So not on the body graph, but on your physical body, it's just underneath, like where your stomach would like sit underneath the sort of base of the rib cage in the midline. Sacral authority means those people who should be tuning into the space around the sacrum. So if you look at a spine, I could show you. So the spine, this one here, there's sort of, it's kind of like a triangular bone with a little tailbone hanging off the bottom here. That's the sacrum. And so the sacral region is actually kind of gut feel. These people, when they have, like, when you hear someone who does a lot of they go or those people are usually sacral authority, and they need to, and this is amazing. This is in the moment. Like I can ask my son, do you want sushi for dinner? It's like, it's straight away. The body knows straight away, yes or no. And sometimes it's like, they make sounds. You listen to the sounds. It's like, maybe, maybe not. Ask me another question, maybe another time. Solar plexus people, we need to go through our emotional curves. Never make a choice when you're high or low. You have to wait for the calm, when things are calm. And it's always cyclical. Whereas this one's immediate, and then survival authority is almost, it's the spleen which has, it's fleeting. It's like if if you don't listen and act on it in the moment, you've missed it. It's like you try and catch its tail and it's gone already. And so Ra, who developed all this information, he just remembers he never used to wear a seatbelt. He got in his car, he was on a country road, never used to wear a seatbelt. And this morning, his hand went up and put his seatbelt on. He didn't think about it. And he noticed that he'd put his seatbelt on and he thought, that's super strange. And then 2 kilometers down the road, if he hadn't have had his seatbelt on, he would have been dead. So it's almost like this survival instinct, and you simply, it's almost like put into action in the moment. And sometimes you might get an inkling, I need to do this now. And then you need to listen to it. Otherwise, it's too late already. Because it is about keeping you alive. And some people will only have that one. Some people will only have the sacral knowing. And some people will only have, I'm going to call the solar plexus the emotional or intuitive knowing. That takes more time. But at least we don't have to wait for an entire lunar cycle, which is a very long time. These forms here that we see under here, which I don't know if we need to really go into. So I don't know, Wendy, have you got your chart there? Do you know what, if you're a particular type of, like which of the types?
I do. So what are you looking at? So I'm a
Is it
generator.
Okay, so this is where the generators are. So we'll maybe stick to that, and we might just leave that out so that we're not talking too much about difficult things. This is just another slide of saying emotional, intuitive people, which is the solar plexus. You need to wait over time to gain clarity. When you have clarity, you may never feel 100% yes, this is for me. But even 60 to 70% is about as good as it gets, because our wave never stops. It continually keeps going. The sacral people is in the moment, the aha, And so if you actually, like, there are people who might have all three. I don't know if I've got this one here. Like this person, no names there, but this one's got the solar plexus and the spleen. So it has the emotional intuition over time, but it also has that survival instinct that's fleeting and in the moment, that you've got to grab it and then it's gone. But this one takes priority for big things in your life. This one will save your life in the moment. This one here is something, if you choose to study something, you'll have to go through your emotional curve. Have a lovely evening, Wendy.
Thank you, you too. Fascinating, thanks.
Pleasure. Wait for your emotional curve to settle and come to the clarity. For me, it's like popcorn. It's like you wait until the popping has finished popping. And when it settles, that's when the correct timing is for you. We're the sleep on it people. The emotional ones are the sleep on it people. And these ones are really interesting. We'll just go through it briefly. We skipped over it on the last slide, but the advisor, the one that's very, it's got that penetrating aura that looks into people. They can't just come out and say what their insights are. They also need to wait. They need to wait to be invited. They need to be their insight needs to be invited, because unsolicited advice turns people away. They don't get received well. And they have they can also have emotional or sacral or splenic knowing. Oh, no, not sacral, because that's only the generators have sacral. So all generators will have the sacral knowing. That's the aha, So all three of us who are generators or builders, because the generators have the energy to build things, houses, systems, projects. We all have the sacral. So if I were to ask Rachel, would you like a coffee? And you just check and see what your body does. Yeah, that. And it's like, it didn't even have a sound at the moment, maybe because the mic was off, but you feel the energy of it. So that these ones are the ones we've discussed mainly, but these ones waiting for the invitation are primarily for the projectors. And they have to listen to what they are saying. This one here, manifested willpower, is from the heart center to the throat. When they've got that gift, they have to actually listen to their own words. They have to have a confidant or someone that they can speak to. It's through their expressing through words that they hear their own wisdom. So that is how their wisdom arises in their body to guide them as to what they should choose. Projected willpower is the channel between the heart and the liver. And they've got to be really aware. The heart is quite egocentric in this system, in the sense that the heart is like willpower. It is about, is this correct for me? Will this serve my purpose? So it is oriented around making things happen. So for them, it's best to ask questions or have someone ask them a question, or them to ask this question themselves, to actually use their own questioning to help to bring clarity to what is correct for them to choose. And then this one is from the liver to the throat. So from the liver center, which is that yellow one in the picture, I'll just quickly, oh no, that has colors on it. This is the yellow center here, up to the throat. If they've got that one, here we go. You listen to your own words when you're discussing something that you're thinking about. It's when you're talking to it, so that when it's linked to the throat, you got to kind of listen to your own questions, how your words come out for yourself. Then the mental projectors, very rare, and that's from the sort of inside center to the throat, or the pituitary to the throat. And again, they've got to talk it out. So having a conversation with a close friend is an ideal way for them to find what their GPS is saying to them. And only your authority, this inner authority or your GPS, is not altered by external influences. It's the only thing that truly gives you consistent advice or information about if this is correct for you, and can always consistently be relied upon. And here I'm just talking about the evaluator that is spending a whole month not making choices, simply absorbing information as the moon travels through its cycle through the month. Different parts of the chart are lit up, and people, interactions with people, light up their chart. So they're sampling the environment on the biggest scale. And they'd be the ones you'd want to have on like the environmentally friendly board, to actually really take in the true information from multiple different areas. Here towards this end here, I've just the builder or the generators, like we are. So the generator has this red center, which is the generator. It provides energy. So the builders all have this center. And in this picture, this builder has this the emotional wave, and the splenic in the moment, fleeting sort of sense of survival instinct and health, how to keep you healthy and alive. So in the hierarchy, you'd first listen, well, this is for the most important things. And you might know in the moment that you have energy for a project. Ideally speaking, if it's a long-term project, you wait for your emotional curve to have come to its resolution or its sort of calm space, or where you feel you've got clarity, whether you feel it's correct timing for you. So something might be correct for you, but is the timing now? And this one here is just so immediate and fleeting that it just comes and goes, and it will show up anytime it has to. Yeah, well, actually, so here I was going to just say that the generator is split up into the generator and the manifesting generator, or the builder or the express builder. So express builders, I've got this energy center linked to the throat. The throat is kind of like when you take awareness and put a vibration on it and produce a shape or a form of a sound or a word that is generating, it's like manifesting something. So they're called manifesting generators. So it's just a subtype, but it's not that important. It's still part of the generator group. This is
Can
what
I ask? So,
yeah.
So you're talking about builders, and so the manifesting generator fits within the builders.
Yeah.
Category.
So the generator, I kind of think of it, the generators it's a generator, it's an energy. We have energy and energy to build. So when I'm using the word builder, it's the business portion of human design. The builders are the ones that get used because of the energy resource that they have. They can regenerate their energy. This one here is a non-energy type, no energy from this center. This has energy to it. So there's 4 pieces that you can get energy from. These 4 here. This is the main one. But the non-energy, yeah, the sacral it's kind of like it's the drive. It's the energetic impulse. And not everyone has the energetic impulse. So that's where the 4 types of chart come in. And then this one here is, again, a rarer form. Because this is not filled in, again, we know it's not a builder or generator, which is interchangeable term. It's a mental projector, and it's a very rare form. So it has absolutely none of these ones colored in below the throat. And these are the ones that need to speak out what is showing up in their inside center. They need to be able to share opinions and mull on things, to be able to hear what they have to say. So they just need someone to listen to them. And through that listening process, they become clear about what is correct for them. And then the evaluator chart would look something like this. All the centers are white. And then there'd be black and red lines through the channels. And then here we're just coming up back to the kind of our intention when we started off. But I think before we go through here, this is a good time to ask questions. So I'm just wondering if you want to ask any questions that you might have written down or have after having.
Well, I just a question popped up in my consciousness when you said that our DNA, that this reflects what our body is able to do and what we're here to achieve in this lifetime. And do you think that we chose our DNA before we actually come into this world?
If you imagine, well, it depends on belief systems, but let's imagine that we believe that the body is like finite and that there is a spirit version that kind of goes for a ride in the body for a term. The spirit then turns to the universal energy in times in between bodies. And when you're part of that universal energy is omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent. And so that if you're in that fully resourced state, would we not choose the correct time and people to enter the world into a particular body that has the exact DNA that we require to fulfill our purpose?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean, however, that each of us will fulfill our life purpose, because sometimes we get distracted. And that's by having our GPS and starting to tune into, well, what does mine feel like to me? What, like, do I give up or Like for foods, I will use my When I just gotten the twins ready, so that's the sacral one. Yeah, for the food, I use it for that. When someone gives me an invite, do I have energy for that? And if my body sinks and it goes, then I know, no, I haven't got energy for that. So that's kind of my first go-to. If you've got one of the other centers, and that's where it would be interesting to have a look at your chart, Rachel. If you have some of the other centers, like this splenic one, I've got that one lit up too. And so it doesn't have to just be life and death situations that it lights up for, but I just spent all morning getting up early, got the twins fed, got them dressed, strapped into the car, because I was going to go and take a Christmas present, winter jackets for the boys that had been given to them for Christmas, but they were already not fitting the boys at the time they were given to them. So I wanted to go and exchange them, but I couldn't leave them in the car any longer, and I couldn't find the jackets. And I stood at the kitchen sink and I just kind of said to the universe, I said, either I find them now or I've got to unpack the boys again and we'll have to go another day. And the next thing, my hand opens a cupboard in the kitchen, right where I'm standing. I'd looked everywhere where I'd normally put stuff, opened up, bent down, and reached right onto the bottom shelf into the back corner. It was a corner cupboard. There was a plastic bag, came out with it, had no idea why I was doing what I was doing. And it just took place within an instant. And that's where the jackets were. So someone must have found them on the bench top because I'd made them ready, thought they were in the way, chucked them in the cupboard. And it wasn't me because otherwise I remembered it. So it can show up like that. And there was so much planning that had gone into the day that I just felt a bit deflated if I couldn't have gone. And it just did show up for me that way. So that's an example of that one. And the emotional one is it's probably the one that I'm least patient with, because I like to just choose, but sometimes it's best to just wait. And then other times I will just not be able to choose. I will know, no, I've got to sleep on it. I'm sorry, I need to sleep on it. And so just noticing, first start noticing. So this whole human design, Ra talks about us simply being willing to experiment with it and see what kind of outcomes you attain. Does your life get filled with more ease? And start dropping away all the mental. So as soon as we go into our brain, it's kind of like all the conscious and unconscious overload comes into play, and what everyone else wants. Especially now, let's have a look. Let's say we got this. If you've got an open head like that, you're going to get broadcasting from everyone in your family, from the neighbors, from 10 kilometers down the road. Yeah, exactly. And then you wonder why you can't make up your mind. It should not be coming from the mind. It should be coming from the body. Because the mind is not necessarily just for you. Your mind is actually what is showing your mind is for other people, unless you've got a program running like this one. This one's got a consistent insight, is really good at looking at history and telling stories to get people to understand. This one here is so each gate has a whole thing that it does, and it gets very, very interesting. But that our vehicle, our body, is the one that has the GPS. The energy that is inside or using the body, like having the benefit of the body through a lifetime, is kind of like the passenger. In Chinese medicine, they talk about the heart, or like this part of your body being the mother of the brain. So you could also think of the body being the piece of, this is what holds the wisdom. This is the data entry center. It organizes data. It's can write lists. It can be whimsical too, because it's got lateral thinking. We've got two halves of the brain, but it's input center. It's not a choosing center. It's input data here. This is what chooses, because the brain is so conditioned to being linear and logical, and actually more and more, actually the kids that you guys are teaching are more than likely right-brained, more right-brained. So much more lateral thinking, much more open-brained, and they take everything in all simultaneously and almost to the point of overwhelm. So that's where, like in autism or central processing deficits, where the central parts of the brain, like the basal ganglia, they become, it's like central station, grand central station, so much data coming in, so that they actually get sensory deficits, so that they're the kids that don't feel pain, or they can injure themselves and don't even feel it, put their hand on something hot and get burnt and not notice.
They really shut themselves down, don't they, to
because
sort that data out, isn't it?
It's kind of like there's so much going on, but this is like, you guys are specializing in being able to approach, because maybe that is part of how they actually are designed to process data. It's just figuring out how much of this data is actually relevant to them, and actually only needing to process that which is prioritized. So when we have a chart, and I think I saw quite a lot of openness in your chart too, Rachel, when you have a lot of open centers here and only 3 things that you can rely on, then if you know that, then you know when you've got a grumbly gut, it might not be yours. If you've got heart palpitations, it might not be yours. If a child is open in this area here, they might have someone else's rage showing up because it's being broadcasted through them. So they pick up a huge amount of data in an open brain that is also just picking up data. So not only is the brain getting data from the external environment, but also from your entire body. So that when you can start prioritizing, saying these are going to be things you can rely on, your root chakra, your emotional, where you're feeling you're emotionally at, and things that are correct and healthy for you, when you can rely on those and you actually allow them to focus on those, and then start to tease out who does this belong to. Like, I've experiences with kids with autism when they actually are amazing, like you can't tell that there's anything wrong. And then when they're having a moment and it is complete violence, it's like Jekyll and Hyde. It is complete overwhelm. It's like my body can't process this other information because it's not yours. So asking them, who are you being? Or is this something being transmitted through you? Just ask questions, because some of these kids know exactly. As soon as you ask a question, it allows them to become aware of the possibility that it's not originating from them. They are processing their family's dramas or their financial issues that they heard their parents discuss last night. And it's coming out at school. Because it's just the first layer, and it's just one thing that happens at school and the whole pot boils over. And so it's got nothing necessarily to do with the environment that they find themselves in when it boils over. It's just something's just too much. Actually, I just want to, sit under the desk and just not look at anyone. And rock. Because rocking is physiologically speaking one of those very soothing movements. It helps. There's something called pain gate theory. It helps to override painful or nociceptive stimuli. That's why we rock babies. It is very rhythmic. It's very soothing, and so they are self-treating. And the same thing with the sensory deficit kids. Sometimes light touch drives them nuts. Whereas if you give them a really strong hug, they can actually relax. Because they have one stimuli that overrides all the other dramas, and they can just rest. And so, so for me, human design is a really interesting, really interesting and very broad body of knowledge that could be amazingly useful. Like this is a very rudimentary chart, but like in one of my charts, it tells me like what sensory, like what are my learning stimuli. Like some people are auditory, visual, intuitive, and actually having to move, like kinesthetic. And so I might, like for me, I've got 3 channels that I learn through. So it's visual, kinesthetic, auditory. And that if you know that about a child, that you give them the stimuli that they can learn best from without getting too overwhelmed by other aspects. Any other question? Oh, so yes. Very long answer. We do choose, I reckon, from what I've experienced and studied and feel for myself, is the correct time, place, and environment is what the knowing part of us chooses for us. And we will have the tools given to us, and also the conditioning given to us by the parents and the religions and the consciousness of the population within which we grow up in, that gives us our it's kind of like it. Then when we start to dismantle all the conditioning and we actually start accessing wisdom, it's those things that we overcome that give us our wisdom. So we need to have those challenges. So
Absolutely.
that those
otherwise we wouldn't grow, would we?
Yeah, exactly. Those challenges are what gets turned into what elevates you to your wisdom.
I've always, I've actually had this conversation quite a few times this week, where, people have said to me, "Oh, but that's uncomfortable." And my answer to that is, yeah, that's because learning is not comfortable, because if you're comfortable, you just stay where you are. The minute you become uncomfortable, you move.
Well, this is this is the comfortable piece, and this is where you want to go, and you have to go across the barrier or the boundary because the magic happens in between.
In between. Yeah.
And like this allows you to, even when you're uncomfortable or in a chaotic situation, it allows you to completely trust your own guidance. And in a world which is so discombobulated in so many ways, it is really important to be able to know, is this food correct? Has this been stored correctly, or will I be sick for 2 weeks? Like, it's really important just for you to know what's correct for you, because it's not going to be the same for everyone. But that when we have that gift of actually trusting ourselves, we get to choose with greater confidence, even if we don't know how it's going to show up. Hey, Cal.
Yeah.
Heidi, Rachel, anyone else who's listening later.
I absolutely, I so get what you're saying. And if I don't know if
should I stop the share? Actually, let me just quickly go here and just ask you, like, if there is any, I can do that afterwards anyway, but so information that we talked about today, your body is your guide.
Yeah.
Why do we want to use this? Like, why would we want to use this information? Because it will lead to satisfaction, acknowledgement, peace, and a sense of wonder, and having that fulfilling experience of living a life fully. And when and how you use it, most of us have to wait for our body's information to reach us. And then the next thing we need to do is take action. So take action in alignment with what your body is informing you with. And what can arise out of that is basically a fulfilled, inspiring life that is beyond your wildest dreams. So that was a summary. I'll stop the share and go out of there. So there we go.
It would be interesting, Heidi. I've actually got mine up on screen here. Well then, the one. Do you want to?
Absolutely.
Do you want to have a look? I'll
Yeah.
share. It could be interesting for people to have a look. Now, can you see it?
And gosh, that's a bit black and white, isn't it?
It is
Okay.
rather.
So here, okay, so this brings a really interesting thing in. The other piece about these open areas are actually, you could call them, the white areas are the broadcasting centers, but they can also be where your greatest shadows are. Because when you are broadcasting something from someone else and you think it's yours, it can impact how you experience yourself.
Absolutely.
And so when we have insight into our shadows, that then turns it into our greatest profit potential, these open areas.
Okay.
And,
Can you say that? Can you say that piece again?
Okay. So
You
the pieces that are filled in are consistent. Nothing changes there ever. These are broadcasting centers. The open ones are broadcasting centers. It can either broadcast shadow or conditioning or indoctrination or, belief systems, have to, musts, and shoulds. But once that shadow gets, when you have insight into the shadow, you disperse the shadow, it becomes your greatest profit potential. It becomes your wisdom. It becomes what you have learned in this life that you are passing on to others. It's your gift to the other. So looking at Kelly's chart, we're looking at the head end is open and the sacrum, the tailbone, like the root chakra, is open, which means your drive, your ambition can be imprinted by someone else's drive and ambition. Let's say someone wants to study something.
Yeah.
You go to work to make that happen for them. Does that make sense? So someone else's ambition imprints you. It's shadowing you until you know that you don't have ambition. So if you're feeling ambition, where the frig is it coming from? Who is imprinting on you?
Yeah, because I'm not an ambitious person
No.
at all.
So you've got the drive and stamina, but the ambition, no,
Not so much.
but when you feel that, like, have a look. What have you just talked about? Who's just come in? Where are you just about to go? Have a look around you. Say, oh, okay, who am I being? Or who's imprinting on me? Or what am I broadcasting for whom?
Which makes total sense because, you know, when I was a teenager, I was an exceptional swimmer and horse rider. And both my coaches were horribly frustrated with me because I was just not competitive. I didn't care. I didn't care if I won or lost, you know. Really,
yeah,
not
but
a
let me
good
just
sportswoman.
ask you something. Did you experience your mother as ambitious?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you, whose ambition might that have been? So when an adult projects ambition that they want you to be the best at something, you pick it up and you are good at something, but actually it's not for you. And so that if we teach our children what is true for them, what isn't correct for them, that they don't spend their lives frustrating other people, because then what happens is that you then personalize the frustration. They're frustrated with me because I'm not doing well enough.
Yeah.
And then we push ourselves to perform, which, if it's not your joy, if it's not what you're designed for, you are forcing around into a square hole. Yeah, it's not correct, and that's where we lose energy, and that's where we get sick. But the other thing with open here and open here is that you're in a pressure sandwich. Your definition lies in between two pressure zones. Those pressure zones, they're called pressure centers, 1, 2, 3 pressure centers. It means that external things place pressure on you. So what you are learning is to have complete integrity in this definition that is consistently available to you, and don't let the pressure get to you. Trust you. And that if it's a big thing, you have to wait for this emotional authority. If it's a little thing, will do. So I don't know if Rachel wants to have a quick turn. Are there any other questions, Cal?
No, it's absolutely fascinating. And I can see how it would be such an interesting exercise if we could do this for our children, you know. Yeah, you would
even
teaching
just
would
knowing,
be a breeze, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and like that, even you could, if you can ask a kid, like, do you have energy for this? And if a kid doesn't, to actually let them honor their energy. Like if they don't have energy to do PE, they're not just being tardy. Or if they don't have energy to do maths, can you swap out doing reading first so that they can regroup a little before they do their maths?
Absolutely.
So that they actually start using their own internal barometer to help guide their day's process, so that they don't get in your hair.
and they don't become frustrated. And
I mean,
and
this is
that's
what
why-
this is what
that's-
Ra said. This
Mm.
information is for the children. If we cannot indoctrinate them to sit down and do it our way 24/7 and get it right, because it only looks like one way and it's mine, which is how we've been taught, then we're honoring the design that they have, and they will learn with greater speed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That just resonates so much with me. As you know, Heidi, I've always been alternative in my
yeah.
approach. And
No,
and I think it's an intuitive thing with me more than anything else. I just did an interview with Tiff Babington, who is an Akashic record reader and life coach, and that was exactly, it just keeps coming up that we need to allow everyone, not just our kids, but particularly our kids and our young people, to be who they are, to live the best life that they know how, not what we know. And school is about compliance and control at the moment. That's what it is all about. And it needs to change, definitely.
and
Rachel.
welcome to the teachers who are.
Exactly. Right.
Did you want to
Rachel,
share your
yours?
chart?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been busting too. Really curious about some things. So,
Wow.
do I need to shrink it, or can you
No,
see it?
you're good. No, we're good.
Well,
So,
Okay.
we're quite similar, Rachel, except your heart.
except I have no solar plexus. Or I've made it mean that it's a weakness.
No,
but-
so let me just, now this is great because this helps to illustrate. When you don't have it lit up, like you've got some, what we call them hanging gates, like they're not fully, it's not colored in, but you've got some hanging gates. So it's open. You're not actually designed to be hugely emotional. You're really steady. But because you're open, if someone is having a meltdown, you'll amplify it. You could amplify it if you're tired or if you're whatever. So that when someone, let's say I'm having a meltdown, if I'm sitting there and I'm having the meltdown, if with you or at you, you might actually feel the energy of it. You actually might feel emotional. So you amplify the emotion in someone else, but actually you aren't made to have an emotional wave, but you are here to amplify it, to learn from it about friction that creates opportunities to create something new, about the grace of right timing. So that having that one open, actually you're also in the pressure sandwich. You've also got the root and the head open. So if you always feel like, I'll just quickly do this to get it out of the way, and this, but it never ends, because
Tell me
that
about
pressure
it.
sandwich,
Yeah.
that pressure sandwich is yours for life. It is about saying, is this the correct time to finish this job? Do I have energy for it? Or So for you, lucky, you don't have to wait for an emotional wave to settle. You just go, Get someone to ask you, have you got time for this? Like I could, but I don't have energy for it. So we ask ourselves, do we have energy for it? Or The interesting thing with you, Rachel, is actually because you've got, have a look at this. I'm starting, can you see my cursor, the sort of pinky thing? I'm going to the throat area here.
Yeah.
So
I
me
can't
trace-
because you're just on your screen. That's okay.
oh, hold on, where's my person?
You're doing what
Oh,
I do. I go on Zoom and I try to point to things, but it's someone else's screen. So we're talking
okay,
about
so from
throat.
I want you to
Throat
imagine
center.
that I've got it. Your finger comes from the throat center. You can follow that channel down to the heart, the red one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the line stops.
Yeah.
And from the throat, there's no link to the liver, the sort of greeny yellow one. So it means that the throat and the heart are together. But they separate to the sacrum, the spleen, and the liver. So it means you've got two different circuits that aren't connected. So Kelly's was connected. This one has got a split in it, which
Right.
means that you actually are designed to work with others around you who help to connect those two centers. But looking at this number here, the number 2 says that actually you're the hermit. You actually like to have time to yourself. Like, you don't want anyone around. You just want to just hide away and just quietly potter away. If people might watch you, so be it. But you need alone time. But for processing things, for processing information, you are best to work in a group or with other people around you, or take your work to, not the pub, probably the coffee house. Like, you could actually work at a bus station, like waiting for the train or train station. As long as you've got some other people to help link up some of those, because the circuit is broken. You require other people to fill that circuit in to get the work done, so that you can communicate what it is that you've identified or instinctually know, or what you have energy for. Yeah, so I don't know if there's any, actually I did quickly have a look at the chat. Oh, thank you, Kel, for asking it out loud. Yeah. Close the chat now. Are there any other questions that you might have?
Oh, it's fascinating. You know, I'm
Actually,
also
look at all the right arrows to the right. That means right-brained. So that means you're very lateral thinking. It sometimes takes a long, like, you can sit and pick up everything in a classroom, the information as well, but you will not know that you know until someone asks you a question, and then it just comes out. You actually don't have to sit down and learn. Like, rote learning isn't, you don't have to do it. And this number 4 talks about salesperson, actually. So interacting with people. Yeah, but interacting, to me, it's more like interaction. It's seeing opportunity, seeing how things fit together. So actually, like, if you look at your job and what you're doing is you're making connections. But you need to have quiet time so that you don't overdo it. And especially with the heart defined, you need to make sure that your commitment, that which you commit to, that you have enough energy for it. That you don't overspend your energy. You need to have rest, because the generator, as a builder generator, you can refuel. You need a little rest, and then you'll be ready to go again. Just give yourself permission for that. This is really cool. Power, personal power in the moment. So you have a really good sense of personal power in the moment, but also aligned with principles, very it's got to be done right, and it's got to be done according to these principles. There's just a right way to do things.
Mm.
And looking after the tribe, protecting, caring, making sure that resources get shared.
Mm.
It's really interesting because Rachel, I've just downloaded the one from the website that you sent me, and we're incredibly similar, Rachel, in our charts, but with the one exception of our heart. My heart is open, yours is lit up.
But now this is where you then get the possibility, like, to do connection charts, where when two of you are working together, you make a third entity. And the things that, so when Kelly's with you, this one would light up, and Kelly's heart would probably light up. If there is a link here on yours, Kelly, I can't, I've got it on my app actually. But it then becomes a completely different dynamic. So this is where it becomes so exceptionally amazing to look at teams. And actually with this here, this is the administrator, 21, very good at admin.
So
this one here,
I can't, you're pointing to things I can't.
Oh, okay. Can you get your cursor?
Yeah.
21 in the heart, the top part of the triangle, and there's a line to the throat, number 245.
Oh, so we want to go see if we can go bigger. Where's the big tool?
Zoom. Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Yeah, there.
Yeah. So the heart,
so
the yellow,
the red
diamond.
Triangle.
No,
yeah, the only triangle.
Oh, the red triangle, the heart. Yeah.
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 So there's a number 21, and from there's a channel up to the 45. The 21 is the administrator. Very good at admin, getting things sorted, organized. Going up to the 45, which is the queen or the huntress or the queen of the domain, the one that gives orders, the figurehead. So you're quite happy to rule your domain, so that you could quite easily kind of run the show, because not only have you got the presence to be able to be the figurehead, but also have the administrative qualities to back it up. Human resources, like you could manage that. And I mean,
but yeah, why is it that I've just spent the most frustrating day I've had for weeks trying to sort out integrations between my different software packages, and I just want to run screaming from the building. I had to go for 2 walks today because I couldn't deal with it.
So frustrating.
Oh my God. And people say you're really good at administration. I am.
Yeah, okay.
But this is the stuff that just, there's not much else about my work that I don't really enjoy. As Kelly knows, I can spend hours designing things, creating things, sharing things, recording things.
So what I'm going to tell you now,
it's the nuts and bolts of having it all linked together that is just doing my head in at the moment.
Okay, so put your chart up for me a little bit more. Sorry, it's just slipped, so I can't see the bottom.
We've now moved into a full-on consultation here.
Yeah. Having the gate of detail would be really good. Like, you're talking details here. But the other piece that I was just thinking is that you also get transits. So a transit is actually, I'll just actually go back. Transits are like when the planets move through the space above us. They will actually start to transmit through those open centers too. So when we have a Mercury retrograde, communication just gets disrupted. That is what it is doing. And so we've all had funky bits with our tech stuff today.
Yeah, we sure have.
So I'm just quickly looking to see if there is a particular transit that is affecting that. Current transits, and it's actually, there's a lot happening in this emotional center. I just quickly want to have a look at Kelly's chart, loaded chart.
Is having an open solar plexus, the emotions, is that,
yeah,
like, does that point to why I just, because most of it's internal. I've learned to internalize my feelings. I used to externalize them and get myself in lots of trouble. So now it's an inner sense of rage and frustration. But is that what, is it the openness? Or because it's an open center?
Yeah, but it's
I
not.
feel that so strongly.
I want you to start asking, who does this belong to? Are you around emotional people? People
No, it's
who have
all by myself that I get angry and frustrated.
Okay. So no. So my sense of that is you don't have energy for the detail. You need to find someone to do the detail. When you haven't got energy for what it is that you're doing, and for the builders, this is what we were going to do next session on, was the signposts to when you're on the correct path and when you're off track. And frustration is that for the builder, is the sign you're off track. You're on the wrong path.
Yeah. Yes.
So sometimes it's not that you're on the wrong path, like life path. It's just like you're on the wrong path for this moment, for this day.
Yeah.
And that's when, Rachel, you did the correct thing. You got up and you walked out.
Yes, but I still have to come back and face the bloody details. Sorry,
yeah, but then but the funny thing is tomorrow you'll get it done in 10 minutes, probably. Yeah. Or you'll find the right person, hire the right person to say, listen, just blitz the hell out of this. Here's the stuff. Go and do it. Come back half a day later and it's all sorted. And it's like,
yeah.
It's really interesting because, you know, what I'm trying to achieve has the potential to revolutionize the way I run my business, the way I communicate with my clients, all of that. And I can see that big picture and I can see the potential. And then it's like crawling over broken glass to get there. You know, it's how it occurs. And I know it's not. I mean, there's no blood. But, you know, that's the experience. It's like I prod one thing and then something else needs to be done and something else needs, you know, like there's all this interconnected bits of wire in my brain. And then I go and watch a video on how to do it. And I'm like, yeah, no. And then the things I really want to get done, which is to communicate with my clients, doesn't happen because the systems are not working. And then I go back to what I used to do, which is, you know, sending out individual emails and all that sort of stuff, which is very laborious.
Time-consuming.
And time-consuming and ineffective, I believe. So it's like, yeah. And that's the only aspects of my work that I find completely infuriating.
Okay,
you know,
so that when you know
working with clients, none of that sort of comes in. You know, I can be dealing with highly emotional, highly mercurial, highly confronted people, and I don't have any issues with that. I'm steady with that.
Yeah. No. So that is your gift. What you're getting frustrated with is that isn't, I mean, the technological stuff is actually very highly specialized. It does take hours and it's not productive for someone who isn't joyful about it. Yeah. There are people who make money and they love it.
Yes.
Exactly.
And it happens in 10 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that when we try and do everything ourselves and we don't recognize this is really not my gift, I'm shocking at this, let's stop and find someone else. Like, is it Fiverr? An online place where you can hire personnel. And it's just, for me, it's sometimes I think, oh, I don't know these people at all. Like, will they actually do a good job or not?
Can you not use your use your gut to figure that one out too, Heidi?
Absolutely.
Well, I think also what's in the mishmash is, you know, I have hired people to do this stuff before and it hasn't worked out very well, and so I'm like cautious of, because this is critical for, you know, like I don't exist in the world without a website and functional email and things like that. So so it's also trust issues with providers, and I mean, I'm pretty happy with the people I'm working with now, but in the past, you know, it's been fraught area
and
of
our
life.
experiences inform our unconscious mind through our beliefs, don't they?
Yeah, you know, and you know, I have had that thought today, is, you know, I could go to back to the people who, you know, I bought this system from and say, what would it cost for you to do it for me? You know, to implement the whole thing for me, or at least get me to a stage where it's all up and running, and I can then I can do what I do well. I mean, Michelle said to me the other day, she said, gosh, you could be a copywriter, you write so well. But for me, that's, you know, that's kind of second nature for me. I don't
even know it's a gift.
No, it's just because I've done it for so long, and, you know, ghostwritten for so many people. And so, but, you know, that's probably where I could spend my time, is writing good communication rather than fiddling around with, you know, URLs that don't work and so on.
Yeah, and this is the
ladies,
thing.
Before we carry on, sorry, we're at.
You want us to wrap up?
We can carry on afterwards, but I'd like to wrap up the live, because I think it's people might be lost at this stage. So.
We could have done that a little while back. Thank you so much, Kelly. I'll just stay on while you finish off the live.
And Heidi is available from our website, and she's on our website, www.thearcheducation.co.nz, and you can find her in the directory under health and well-being and personal development. And if you've enjoyed this, please come back next week, and there is actually a new invitation or a new registration for next week's live, and you are more than welcome to join us. Thank you for everyone who's listening, and thank you, Heidi, and thank you, Rachel, and we will see you next week. I'm really looking forward to looking at what we're going to look at next week, because we all have doubts about whether we're on the right path or not, and it'll be highly, highly valuable. So thank you.
Thank you.